I'm Cameron Pelton, and this is my in the bag for TeamFlipSide2017. My PDGA number is 67053. Let's get started. Okay, so I have the basic grip bag. I'm going to get started with my putters. I've got 4 putters. I'm going to get started with my putting putters. A Star AVR. I use this for my main putting, 30 feet inside the circle basically. And this is my understable putter, a DX AVR. I've had this for a while. As you can see, it's got some wear and tear. It's my hyzer flip putter. I can put it softly on a line, kind of flutter it up to the basket, and it'll stay that straight line. I can rely on it not to hyzer out too bad. I also use this for longer putts. If I'm running at it, I can depend on this not to hyzer out so quickly as the new Star AVR. So that's what I use this one for. Next on, we have our harp. Now, I used to have a C-Line P3. They're really overstable, and until I can find another one, I'm going to the harp for now. The harp, while I'm using it, has done me great. It's really overstable. I can depend on it to hold into a headwind. I can flick it pretty well without putting that hyzer on. I'm not familiar with the flick terms, but I can throw it like this, and I can depend on it not to roll over. I can throw it any type of way. It's basically my stable putter. And then we've got on to our extra tough Nova. This thing is unbelievable. I've gone through probably 12 putters trying to find a perfect upshot putter that won't hyzer out or flip over. And a new extra tough Nova has done me the trick. I've heard so many great things about the Nova. I don't think I've ever heard more than 5 negative things about it. But the only thing is, when this thing starts to break in, it's gonna turn over any type of way. It's very hard to throw it straight when it's broken in. I have probably maybe 3 of these on standby, waiting to get switched out. Now we move on to our mid-ranges. I've got a total of 5 mid-ranges. Let's get started with the Champion. Okay, I've got a Champion mid-ranges. A Champion Rock 3, Paul Macbeth. A Champion Mako 3, and a Champion Atlas. I call this one the Hulk because it's purple and green, and it's really, I don't know, I just call it the Hulk because it's purple and green. My Rock 3 is my basic mid-range. I can throw it flat, I can put it on Annie, and it'll come out of it. I mean, it's just your baked hit mid-range. I like it. The Paul Macbeth, I've noticed all the Paul Macbeth models are just a bit overstable than the regular ones. And I like this Champion plastic. I just like my Rock 3. I'll use it in any type of way. I'll use it in woods, off a tee, sometimes for upshots. And I just can depend on the Rock 3 so much. It's just one of a kind. And next, we move on to our Champion Atlas. Champion Atlas. I can throw this into a headwind and expect it to come back. I usually use this for open holes. If I need to get a little bit more distance, I put this on a big turnover and it'll come back soon enough. It actually starts to come out while it still turns while it's hyzering out. That's what I like about it. My dad throws one, and I watched him throw it on an Annie and pretty flat, and I was hooked. I mean, this is one of the discs that I saw come out of my dad's hands, and I say, I gotta find one. And sure enough, I found one of these, and I threw it, and I loved it. I've heard so many great things about the Atlas. I use this for mainly wood straight shots. It's got a fade of 1, so it's pretty dependable. And next we move on to the straightest mid-range of them all, besides my DX Rock, and we'll get to that in a minute. My Mako 3. My Mako 3 I throw off the tee many of times. Sometimes I'll use it for placement. It doesn't matter if it's a 1,000-foot hole or a 100-foot hole. I'll use this anytime, anywhere, for any shot. It's super dependable, and I just love my Mako 3. You can't go wrong with Mako 3. It's super straight. It can handle torque well if I have to flick it, which if you see me flick, it's not very good. But if you see me, the Mako 3 can handle torque. That's the Mako 3 for you. And then we move on to our DX and Star. We've got your basic DX rock. It's almost broken in. I use this. It's pretty beat in. Getting to the point of taking it out and putting a new one in there. I use this for hyzer flips. It's just your basic DX rock. 180. And I like this rock. I can throw it flat, it'll go flat, and it'll come out to it a little bit. Just a faster beat in of the rock or the Mako 3. I really like this disc. My dad throws DX rocks. They're easy to get because he has millions of them. I don't know why, but he has a lot. If you see him run out of a DX rock, he's not doing so well, playing wise. And I really like this DX rock. I usually use it for wooded holes, mainly wooded holes. This is my wooded go-to mid-range. I really kind of use all my mid-ranges for the same. I really have no explanation for them. Until I get to the shot, I just know when I need it, I need it. And that's the DX rock. Now we move on to our Star Gator. I love my Star Gator. This thing is just great. I can depend on it to hyzer out. This is the one mid-range I have that won't go right. It just won't go right. And I usually use it for spike hyzers or throwing it flat and over something and knowing it'll come back. There's a couple holes in Ford Park, my hometown course. We go to that all the time. And there's this one hole where you have to throw over the top of the bushes, and I throw the Gator. This Gator is so dependable. I've seen so many people use the Gator, and it's just wonderful. And now we move on to our drivers. We've got maybe 2 sets of drivers. Here, first off, we're going to start off with our Star T-Bird. My Star T-Bird is a couple of years old. It's starting to beat in. It's my flat driver. I can throw it flat. It's mainly, I use it for the woods and flick. It goes so straight I can use it in the woods. It'll fade out just a little bit at the end. I use it for tailwinds and a slight headwind. I know it'll hold up for just a second and it'll maybe turn over just a smidge and it'll come back. This thing is just wonderful. It's got a huge pop top, as you can see, and compare this to this, it's just a big pop top. And that's the Star T-Bird. I usually use it in the woods. And then we go to our C-Line DDX. I took the stamp off of it for that. I thought that was pretty cool. I saw it in a picture. I use this for slight hyzer flips. I use it in headwind to get more distance. I know that sounds funny, but this DDX is so dependable. I threw a buddy of mine and I was hooked. And I can throw it in a tailwind. It'll go flat. It won't hyzer out too much, but it'll hyzer out. And I can throw it in headwind. This thing is just wonderful. I can throw it in a headwind with a slight hyzer flip and it'll flip over and ride. I can throw it in a crosswind and it won't push over too bad. I can throw it in a left to right crosswind. And this thing is just perfect for all types of winds. I've just never seen anything like a brand new DDX. And then we go on to our super overstable flat top Firebird. This is more of a utility disc. I will rarely throw this off a tee. If I do, I need to flick over something or I need to skip. This is mainly what I use for a really severe skip shot, or I'm really in the woods and I need to flick almost like a 40-degree angle and have that thing come back. This is one of the one discs I have besides the Gator that I know will go left at all times. it'll never go to the right. I can depend on it for spike hyzers, flicks, and maybe even sometimes a huge turnover. I will rarely do that, but this is just one of those things. This is just one of those discs that you have to have in your bag. I love my Firebird, and I don't think I'll ever find another one like it. Now we move on to our Star Boss. This is just my basic driver. I use it for headwinds and hyzer shots. I use it for big hyzer shots to go around stuff. And we'll also get, I have another one like this. It's just newer. And except it's not a boss. The Star Boss, I used to use this for everything. When I was just starting to play, I had this for everything. It was like my Firebird. It's a 175 max weight. And this thing was so overstable. And then I got to know what it did. And yeah, this is mainly what I use for flicking. And backhanded. This is my main go-to driver, is my Star Boss. I use this for just about anything, to skipping, to forehands, to tomahawks, to even forehand rollers. I've only done that once. And it worked out pretty well. I hope I never have to do that again. That's my Star Boss. Yeah, it's my Star Boss. Now we go on to our second set of drivers. My Paul Macbeth Champion Thunderbird. This thing is so overstable. This is another one of my flick discs. It's not as overstable as the Boss, but it's overstable for a Thunderbird. This is probably one of the most overstable Thunderbirds I've ever thrown. I got this out of my dad's box. He's a Innova dealer, and I got this out of his box. And I heard so many great things about it. I got it out of his box, and I threw it one day at a course at Clyde Fam. And it just flew so perfect. I threw it straight, and it flat, and it hyzer down. I usually use this for not as far hyzer shots, but this is another one of my headwind and flick drivers. It's not as dependable as I want it to be. It just does stuff I just can't rely on to use it on everything, but it's reliable enough to be in my bag. And next we move on to the most understable disc I've ever thrown. The 150 10-year-old DX Leopard. I found this when I went to Dallas to go play Rockwall. This was one of the first discs I've ever found. This used to be my main driver when I was just starting to play. And now I use it for big turnover shots, like almost a 90-degree angle. I have to go over something, or rollers. I never use this off the tee for rollers or that. And sometimes I won't even use this off the tee for big anties. I have another driver, just 2 drivers for that. And that's what the DX Leopard does. It really has no use but rollers. Next we move on to our Innova Mystere. This is what you get in your player pack when you go to an event. I wiped the stamp off of it, so it just say Innova. This is a little bit more flippy than the numbers say it will, and I go off the numbers quite often. My dad tells me not to, because sometimes they're not as accurate as they say, which in this case does apply. It's got a turn of -2 and a fade of 2. I usually use this for turnovers. If I need a big turnover, or I need a tailwind driver, this is my go-to, tailwind or any driver. This thing will just stay right. It's just beautiful. I've never thrown anything like it. Well, yes, I have. I have one in my bag. That's a lie. I'm sorry. My Mystere is what I use for anties and tailwind drivers. Sometimes I'll use it for straight shots or hyzer flips. I won't often use it for hyzer flips because it'll just turn over and go so far. It's not very dependable for straight shots because you can't really control the distance off of it. That's the Champion Mystere. And next we have one of my favorite discs, the Champion Colossus. I got this off of an auction site. I've only thrown one of these once. I threw it flat and I loved it. I use this for my big distance driver. Oh, I dropped one. I don't know if I got to this. If I did, I'll just do it again because I dropped it. My Champion Colossus, I use this for big drives. I put a big turnover on it and it'll come back. I usually don't use this for woods because woods I have to kind of flutter it. I can't power something through the woods. I just can't. I'll end up pulling it. And I don't do that. I don't throw this in the woods because of the wide rim it has on it. As you can see, it has a huge rim. One of the largest I've ever thrown besides a destroyer and a boss. That's the Champion Colossus. I mean, I'll occasionally use this for flicks, but not much. I'll use this for low power hyzer shots or skipping or stuff like that. This is mainly my all-around driver. I can use it for flicks, annies sometimes, power hyzers, and yeah, sometimes I'll even use it for an upshot. Then we move on to the one I dropped, my Star TL. This is probably one of my oldest drivers. My Star TL is one of my distance drivers, even though it is a fairway driver. This thing is so broken in. You can tell it's gummy. It's Star, by the way. I don't know if I've said that. I probably have. I usually use this for longer drives. I can throw it a little bit further than my Colossus, but I prefer not to because I'm trying to get out of this area where I throw. I don't know. I'm just trying to get out of that. Using the sprite speed for a right shot. I can throw this flat and it'll turn over and just enough to get a little bit more distance and it'll hyzer out, but not too much. I just love this disc. It's a whole part of my game. If I lost this disc, my game would go down. I'm still looking on eBay for beat-in Star TLs. This thing's just beautiful. I can depend on it. I can't flick it. It's not dependable with a flick. It can't handle torque. It's so broken, and I'm trying to do it like this, and it'll just wobble out and fall down. I mean, it's just not dependable with a flick. And that's the Star TL. Next, we move on to our Star Bottom Stamp Destroyer. This is my newer destroyer. This one's starting to, my boss is starting to beat in, so, but it's still stable. That's why I put my Star Destroyer in here. I got it from a friend, and don't mind that. And I use it for mainly big hyzer shots. If I have to go around something bigger than what I use for the boss, or turnovers or skip shots. Or if I have like a right Mando, I can depend on this to stay left. This is just another low power hyzer driver. I use it for flicks also if I have to throw it up in the air and it'll stall out, or just a low shot, I keep it straight and it'll hyzer out soon enough. This is just one of my dependable hyzer drivers, also known as, or also my headwind driver. And then we go on to our last two. Our Katana, my Blizzard Katana. My Blizzard Katana is what I still use for my maximum distance driver. If there's like a 1,000-foot hole, I can just get up here and rip this thing. Mainly hyzer flip. It's a 160 or 159, I rounded. And I throw this as hard as I can, as low as I can, with about maybe 10 feet above my head. And I throw this with a hyzer flip and it'll pop up and roll. And this thing will just go so far. I can throw it with a 360, I can throw it with a flick, I can throw it with a roller. And this is also another one of my big turnover shot discs. If I need to get around something, I can throw this further than the Mysterio. This is my further any shot, my turnover shot than my Mysterio. If I have to go around something that's a lot larger than the Mysterio, I'll throw this. Because it's a lot wider weight and it'll hold its turn longer than the Mysterio because it's not so new. And that's my Champion Katana. And then we move on to our last disc. A beat-in Champion Destroyer. I really just have this in here for a liable disc. It's not very, I don't know how to say it. I don't care about it that much. This is one of those discs if I go to a new course and there's water or something, I'll throw this over the water, and I don't mind losing it. This is just one of those discs that is, it's an expendable disc. I don't care about it really. It's just in here for losable purposes. I don't care if I lose this. But if it wasn't expendable, I'd use it for turnover shots, just long headwind drivers. I could throw this into a headwind and it'll roll over a little bit and then come back. It's still got a little bit of life of it left in it. And yeah, it's just basically an expendable disc. It's losable. I don't care about it. And I just one of those discs that you have to have in your bag that you don't mind losing. And well, that's it for my in the bag for TeamFlipSide 2017. If you didn't catch my PDGA number, it's 67053. Again, that's 67053. Now I sound like an infomercial trying to sell you, I don't know, just an infomercial. And, yeah, I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy. Deuces.